dear Wilfried Martens, dear President Basescu, dear friends of the EPP. Let me first of all thank our Romanian friends for organizing this EPP Congress here in Bucharest. One message of this Congress is clear. The European Union is very important for Romania, and Romania is very important for the European Union. Let me also express my respect and friendship to Wilfried Martens, President of the EPP, and also the Secretary General, Antonio Lopes, for their work. And also like to thank José as President of the EPP Group, and all the colleagues of the European Parliament for their cooperation with the European Commission. The European Union is going through the most challenging period of its history. The reality is that some of our member states are facing serious economic, financial, in many cases, extreme, difficult social problems. And as this crisis is happening in Europe, many tend to suggest that this problem was created by Europe. And this is simply not true. The current problems we have in Europe were created by unsustainable debt in the public sector and irresponsible financial behavior in the private sector. This is the cause of the crisis we have now in Europe. So the European Union is not the cause of the problem. The European Union is the indispensable part of the solution. What is happening in some parts of our Union is not just a problem for some of our countries or some of our citizens. It is a vital concern for all of us, for the European Union as a whole. It is an illusion to think that in a single market, and even less so in the euro area, some members can sustainably and in the long term flourish, whilst others are suffering. Inequality is not sustainable. The European project is a project of convergence. And this is also what says the Treaty of the European Union, Article 1. This treaty marks a new stage in the process of creating an ever closer union among the peoples of Europe. So the question we have to ask ourselves is the following. Are we on track in creating an ever closer union among our peoples? Are we all working for this common, strong European objective? I believe the answer is yes, but. Yes, we are making progress, but not enough progress. This is the honest analysis of the current situation in Europe today. We cannot ignore that there are dangerous tendencies in some quarters of Europe. The lack of economic and social convergence between our member states is not sustainable for much longer. This lack of convergence is nourishing populist debates which have one single objective: to divide, to weaken, ultimately to put an end to this great project that it is the European Union. We must not allow these extremist, these populist forces to succeed, exploiting, of course, the frustration of many in Europe and the social crisis. The only way to succeed for Europe is to act united. And if we want to keep our social market economy, we have to understand that in the age of globalization, we need to make the reforms for Europe to remain competitive, indeed to become more competitive. And this is the statements of the reality that I believe are serious and honest. Not to promise miracles, because there will be no miracle. There will be not a magic solution, but to tell our citizens that it is necessary to make reforms, that sometimes are difficult, but it is the only way to keep Europe and our countries competitive in a much more globalized and more challenging world, so that we can keep our social market economy. I mean, an open economy, a competitive economy, but an economy that is committed to social cohesion and to the values of European Union. Some people say that we need only solidarity. Others say we need only discipline. I say we need both. We need responsibility and solidarity. We need discipline and convergence. We need to give Europe and its institutions the means to guarantee that European rules are respected, to give European action full democratic legitimacy by building a true European democracy based on the community method, to deepen our European democracy. Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, this is the only way forward for Europe. Other ways lead to division, to fragmentation, that would lead back Europe to the so-called logic of balance of power, and we know that logic of balance is very unbalanced indeed, and that was exactly what brought in the past Europe to wars and some of the worst moments in our common history. It is absolutely clear that we need to further integrate the euro area. It is clear that the euro area needs to evolve towards an economic, monetary, fiscal, and ultimately a political union. This is a logical consequence that we are drawing from this crisis. But, and this is an important point, the euro area is not a distinct organization from the European Union. Under the treaty, the euro area and the European Union rest on one and the same institutional framework, on the same single market, on the same set of community rules, with the same European Commission, with the same European Parliament, with the same commitment to our common values. This means that as we go further with euro area integration that is indispensable to sustain a common currency, we must not allow this to lead to divisions with respect to those countries who will join the euro later. The euro must remain open to all member states. Solutions must be found as wherever it's possible at 27, soon 28 members. The single market must be upheld, and it must be clear that European Parliament is also the Parliament of the euro, and that European Commission is the Commission of the euro. So my answer is yes, we need more euro area integration, but let us make this process as inclusive as possible as a way of deepening the solidarity in all the European Union and not as a way of creating new walls, because in Europe we definitely need no more walls. Dear friends of the EPP, next month we are going to take important decisions about our budget for the next 7 years. We'll have some choices to make. How much money do we want to invest in these times of tight domestic budgets, in convergence, in cohesion, and for reforms for increased competitiveness? And how can we better give a goal to this money? And did we always spend European Union funds in the past in the best possible way? For me, the answer is clear. If we want growth, and all the leaders in Europe say they want growth, then we have to support the most important instrument we have at European level to support investment. It is precisely our budget for the next 7 years, because without some kind of investment, we will not be able to achieve growth at European level. But at the same time, we have to say, this money, namely the money for cohesion, is it's not just a kind of license to spend. This is not right. It is investment at European level to support the common objectives, to increase our competitiveness, to make our European economies more competitive. That is why I want to make a statement here, because I have seen in the discussions that there are on one side so-called friends of the cohesion, On the other side, there are the friends of better spending, sometimes suggesting to reduce the investment. And to those two parties, the party of better spending and to the party of cohesion, I say, let's make a coalition for growth. This is the objective of all Europeans, to work for sustainable growth at European level. But let's also be honest about it. We cannot continue with the growth of the past. We have seen that growth was not sustainable. Growth that was fueled by artificial credit or by irresponsible public spending was not the kind of growth that we can say it was sustainable. And now we are facing problems that allow us, that make us a need to respond to those problems, including in the euro area. That is why we need to be aware of the historic responsibilities in the months ahead. That's why I think that we are now working on these projects. One project that is making progress is the financial transaction tax. We have put forward as a proposal. We have now received the minimum number of member states that are ready to go for the financial transaction tax. And the European Commission will make now a proposal in terms of reinforced cooperation. We have proposed that at least part of the revenue of the financial transaction tax could be used at European level to support precisely those countries that are in most difficult situation, provided that they make the necessary indispensable reforms for their competitiveness. That can be, indeed, an example of how we can together respond to this crisis, to work with responsibility and at the same time with solidarity. So let's not now weaken our determination. I believe we can overcome this crisis, and indeed we are overcoming this crisis, but we need to go forward for more integration in Europe. That is why it is so important, the idea of a political union to deepen our European democracy. And I think that in the next months, we need to have concrete decisions on several areas. Reinforcing the budget discipline and convergence, adopting the so-called two-pack, which will reinforce coherence in budgetary policies, adopting the single supervisory mechanism for banks. It is critically important for the credibility of supervision, and which is in turn a precondition for the possibility of direct recapitalization of banks under the European Stability Mechanism, and last but not least, adopt the multi-annual financial framework, the budget for the next 7 years. And we must not stop here. We must go further in integration. Not for the sake of integration, but because we need to go further if we want Europe to count in the globalized world. Because the message that was given to us by the international community from the Nobel Peace Prize is that the world needs and the world wants a strong Europe. Last week I was in Jordan, in a refugee camp with young girls and boys from Syria, refugees. I was visiting that camp, and the director of UNICEF that was with me said, without European Union funding, these girls and boys will not have a school to study. And then I feel proud to be European, because Europe, even in times of crisis, we are supporting those that have most needs in the world. The project of European integration is a project for the good of Europeans, but also a project for the good in the world. And we are now embarking in this process of seeing what can we do further afterwards. That's why I've proposed to all pro-Europeans in all parts of societies to engage in a truly political debate. And I think the elections of 2014 can be a defining moment for that political debate at European level, a truly democratic debate to see how can we go further in terms of economic union, monetary union, a fiscal union, and a political and democratic European Union. So this is my appeal to you and to all the pro-Europeans. Let us make sure together that the Nobel Peace Prize in 2012 is not awarded to an idea of the past, but to a project of the future. I believe that we will win this bet and that we will make Europe a great project for the future and for the generations that will come after us. I thank you for your attention.